I've been seeing a lot of people out there literally wanting us to have another civil war in the United States. This is you couldn't dream up a worse scenario for our country than another civil war. You know, I get it. We have our differences, and at times it looks like we're never going to be able to see eye to eye, right? I understand that. I understand that the way Californians think versus the way that, you know, Alabama thinks is extremely different. But the bottom line is, if we don't figure out how to resolve these differences and respect each other and respect that there's cultural differences between the states, then, you know, yeah, it could deteriorate to a situation where we have a second American Civil War. And what will happen, remember, the Civil War was the bloodiest conflict that the United States has been in. And it will be much worse if there's a second one, right? You are talking about probably millions of people dying. And the idiots that I see posting about this, like, for example, there was one woman was talking with glee about how she really wanted to see a civil war because in her mind, she's incorrect, but she thought that the North controls all the fresh water. No, that's not true. But that's what she thought. And she, you know, was gleefully talking about this, you know, it would be over quick, that kind of thing. So stop and think about this for a minute. Whoever you are, wherever you are, this war is not, if it happens, is not going to be millions of miles away from you. There are, let's say it just boils down to conservatives versus progressives, right? That's somehow how the lines are drawn. Let's say that that's what it is. Now, there's different ways that this could happen, but let's say that's what it is. Wherever you are, whether you're in New York, Massachusetts, or California, or you're in Alabama or Texas, there are sympathizers to the other side in your neighborhood. A civil war that happens now would involve communication with those cells, and there would be bloody conflict everywhere. It would be in your neighborhood. Not only that, it would be so widespread and so bloody that we would all be losing people that we loved. You would be losing your sons, your daughters, your nieces, your nephews, your friends. It would be a bloodbath that's unimaginable. And the amount of guns that we all have in this country exceeds the number of people in this country by a long shot. But even if you took firearms out of the equation, most people can figure out how to make things like IEDs, improvised explosive devices, booby traps, things like that. All it takes is a little bit of time and a will. Most people don't think about that, but if it came down to it, they can. And, you know, I even saw one of my friends that I have a lot of respect for, she's a very intelligent person, was talking about how if there was a civil war, her assumption would be that it would be, you know, the military versus the rebels. You really don't think that embedded within the military are people that are both sides of this spectrum? Really? You're deluding yourself. You don't think that some of those people who are, let's say, op force would defect and take equipment with them? Okay, you need to. If you don't think that, you're not paying attention to how civil wars are happening in other parts of the world, right? And you know, like I think it was Biden that famously said, "You can't fight a war with an AR-15. You need, you know, F-16 jets and whatnot." Really? Okay. So the Viet Cong with AK-47s and booby traps gave hell to one of the most advanced fighting forces in the world. The Al-Qaeda and Taliban gave hell to Americans and our allies for over a decade in Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay? So if you think it would be over in minutes because, you know, somebody has access to the Air Force, you really don't understand fifth generation warfare. right? In fact, fourth generation warfare. Fifth generation involves robotics and drones. Sorry. Fourth generation warfare is guerrilla warfare, which is extremely effective for a small op force against a larger, more organized, better armed, better supplied army. This happens all around the world. We're a small fighting force that, using guerrilla tactics and improvised explosive devices, can do quite a bit of damage. So this is not something that you would watch while eating bonbons on your couch on CNN. It would be in your backyard. And nobody should be wishing for this. I am a therapist who's worked with a lot of combat veterans who've come back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and you have no idea what you're wishing for. There would be child combatants. There will be child combatants if we have a second American Civil War. Do you want that? Do you want to see little kids lose their life? Do you want to see your little nieces and nephews lose their lives? Because that's what would happen, right? So this nonsense about people wishing, like, I really worry about your mental health if you think like that. I get it that we're a very divided nation. I've given my thoughts on this many, many times, that I think a large part of that has to do with our media and our politicians, that by keeping us divided against each other, we don't realize how much they're taking, like the game that's being played, right? You should look up what the salary is of your legislators and how much their net worth is, right? You should look up who pays for the majority of funding for mainstream media, right? So by keeping us divided against each other and thinking that your neighbor is your enemy and that they're the problems, they're the reason why you're so miserable, you're really completely missing the boat. You're so missing the boat, and I feel bad for you, really, that you don't see through the big picture, right? Like, because there's a game of space chess going on, and you're playing 2D checkers, and you're losing. The mainstream media is part of the problem. I'm not saying they're the enemy. I'm saying that I don't trust them, is what I'm saying, okay? And you can do your own research on that. You don't have to believe old Sarge. Go look up who funds them. Make up your own mind. Be an educated person. An educated person is... that's what they're afraid of. They don't want you to have critical thinking skills. They don't want you... This is why people, like when Hillary Clinton talked about that she wanted social media companies to censor, that they don't like free speech. They don't like that you can put out your ideas and you can speak the truth, because sometimes the truth they don't want to be heard. And they definitely don't like when you think critically and make up your own mind, okay? Now, again, I am neither a Republican nor a Democrat. I want to be crystal clear about that. Both parties have let me down. Both parties, I feel like, are a great disappointment to the American people. And I look for candidates when I'm voting. I look for candidates that have integrity and compassion and show good leadership qualities. That's what I look for. And they're sometimes hard to find, if we're going to be honest about it, right? So this is not an anti-Republican rant. This is not an anti-Democrat rant, because I am neither. I'm independent. And I think that for me, that was when I went independent and I started seeing through the lies of both parties, is when I really broke free of the matrix, so to speak, okay? All right, now it's your turn. You can let me know in the comments down below if you disagree with me. If you're somebody that's served in war and you want to share your thoughts on this, for the people that, think they're going to be couch warriors and watch this on CNN unfold while they're eating their bonbons and drinking their Trulies, let them know what the reality of war is like, because they have no flipping clue, right? And I don't either, because I've not served, but I have sat in the room and listened to the stories of the people who have, so I have a little bit of an idea of what kind of horror that would be if that came to the United States. Folks, I really appreciate you. Thank you for listening to my car rant, and I hope you have a great day out there. Make sure you support our sponsor. Let's go ahead and roll that video right now. Folks, this video is sponsored by AppMex. AppMex is my choice for purchasing online gold and silver. I've been using AppMex for years. They always ship really fast. I get exactly what I want, and it's shipped in a discreet package so that not everybody who's handling it can tell what it is. That's really important for security when you're purchasing gold and silver online. Why do preppers like gold and silver? Well, I can tell you why I like it. It is the most anonymous form of currency. You can use it to exchange to any type of currency anywhere in the world, and it survived the collapse of empires as a source of wealth. You can check out AppMex by using the link that I'm going to put on the screen right now. Tell them Prepping with Sarge sent you. All right, thank you once again to our sponsor for today's video, and I will see you next time. Keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.